The Baseball Together Network presents the Philly Baseball Together podcast with your hosts, Jason and Tory. And now, Philly Baseball Together.
All right. Welcome back, listeners. This is the Philadelphia Baseball Together podcast. I am Melvin Van Horn, and with me, as always, is my associate, Herschel Kristofsky.
Hello.
Wait a minute. This isn't the Simpsons podcast. I'm Jason. I'm joined with...
I'm Tory, but you can call me Herschel if you want. I do kind of like that, you know.
My appreciate that.
yeah. My fantasy baseball team last year was Ken Griffey Jr.'s Nerve Tonic, and then this year, of course, just Springfield Nuclear Power. Yeah,
I love it. That's one of the best Simpsons episodes ever. I think one of the best.
It is so good.
One of the best baseball-centric episodes in fictional TV.
It's funny how good the baseball players were, even just at acting. Like you would not expect Don Mattingly to be able to deliver some of those lines, or even Wade Boggs, like Lord Palmerston hit the elder. Like, all right, Boggs, you asked for it. Yeah. Hit the elder. People who aren't Simpsons fans right now are like, what the heck are they talking about?
Why am I listening to this? That's what they're thinking.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess we better get started here. Let's start at the beginning. The lockout. I got to be honest with you. I was not expecting a season.
I was, but I thought it was going to be short. I was like, well, they might get maybe like 140 games or something, but it's not going to be 1994 where they, we lose the World Series or something like that. I knew that it was going to be too important to, the players to actually just lose it completely. I didn't think that was going to happen.
I didn't think it would be because of the players we wouldn't have had a season. I mean, I think the general consensus amongst fans is that this really fell on the owners and he who shall not be named.
Yes. That might have been confusing to me. Like I meant that that the players would have saved the season, not
Gotcha.
Not he who must not be named. I'm gonna call him Man Fiend from now on.
Man Fiend.
Yeah,
I think for me, he's always going to be not Bob Costas.
Not Bob Costas. People hated, what the heck was his name? Bud Selig. Yeah. But to be honest, I never disliked him. I always thought that he did some good stuff for the game, except of course for turning a blind eye towards, steroids. But I mean, my gosh, like, he makes Man Fiend makes Selig look like he's like St. Paul or something like that, What
did I say on the draft special of Baseball Together? Did I say that it's bad when your commissioner makes Gary Bettman look competent?
Oh yeah, you did say that. And for those of you who don't know, Bettman is the commissioner of the NHL. Some people might not know that. I don't know.
No, it's good to clarify.
But I mean, when it's been a couple of months, since we've been here now. And last year, I don't know if you remember, we said playoffs are bust. Obviously, it was bust for us last year. And
winning record.
True. And we came so close. Like, I mean, we battled with the Braves until pretty much, I think they just ran out of gas, honestly. Like, Harper was pretty much just like, yeah, all right. I just think that he couldn't handle it all himself, which of course brings us to, this off season where, now apparently, knock on wood, he doesn't have to do it all by himself.
And that's our next topic at hand. I mean, I think we got to talk about that very, very crucial, very important re-signing of Odubel Herrera. No, I'm just kidding.
I was over the moon when it happened. Really, I ran out into the street. I was hooping and hollering. I was like, "We got Herrera!" and everything. I mean, tears were streaming down my face. No, but getting Schwarber and no, I don't even know. Is it Castellanos or Castellanos?
Castellanos.
Llanos. Okay, it is Castellanos. I wasn't sure if it was if it was like a Spanish last name or an Italian.
I mean, I think it is a Spanish last name, and man, any listener listening to us is going to just kill us for that.
I think he's somebody that's really going to do well in Philadelphia. Just looking at just reading what he had to say during his opening press conference, where he said like, well, I don't have a college degree. I hit home runs. That's how I feed my family. That's what he said. And for some reason, I loved that. I loved the, I don't know. I guess if it was just if it was raw and like a kind of like emotional a little bit. But to hear that from like a baseball player, like, this is how I feed my family. I was like, yes. You know what? Philadelphia loves the blue collar man. And, so I think it's going to go over well. And same thing with Schwarber. I mean, do you remember last year when he hit like, what was it? It was like 16 home runs in 18 games. I mean, obviously that's not going to happen like every year. Otherwise, he'd have like 150 some odd home runs during the season. But Kevin Long is now his hitting coach. Sorry, go ahead.
No. My concern with Schwarber is, do we rely on 2020 being an aberration?
Yes.
Or are we concerned that it could happen again?
I am definitely concerned about that. I feel like I've been rambling a little bit, so I'll let you talk about Schwarber if you like.
You're fine by me.
Okay.
I do know a friend of the show. She hosts the Chicago North podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Denise, she's big on Schwarber. She had nothing but good things to say about him. So, I mean,
he was one of the guys that brought them a title. I can only imagine what 2016 was for her. She must have been over the moon when they finally won the championship.
I would assume so.
Yeah,
I didn't know her then, so I don't know, but I would assume so.
Yeah. I mean, when you're a Cubs fan, I think you just naturally assume that, and we're getting a little bit off topic here, but you just naturally assume like the sky is always falling. So it was nice that they had a year where the sky was not falling. But as for Schwarber, yes, I am a little worried about that. But a lot of players had weird 2020s also. Some people like Christian Yelich haven't necessarily been able to bounce back, and I still don't know what the heck happened to him. But looking at Schwarber last year, I mean, we can obviously tell that he did in fact bounce back, and he bounced back in a big way. I always worry when players have career years in like a walk year, if it's due to them wanting to get the big contract. But I mean, like he's had a year where he's had 38 home runs, and he had a slugging percentage of 531, 871 OPS. Last year his OPS was in Boston, it was 957, and in Washington it was 910. OPS plus was 145 with the Nationals, 154 with Boston. So now, and though for those of you who don't know what OPS plus is, 100 is an average player. So if you're 154, that means you are 54% better than an average player. I think Harper was somewhere around like 180 something last year, maybe 178. I can't remember. So he obviously had some, had a monster year, and that swing is going to be great going to right field at the bank. Same thing with like, Castellanos also. I mean, it's, we're going to love dingers here in, in Philadelphia Phillies land. And,
I believe I said to you through text that they're going to have to start calling it ding the bell instead of ring the bell.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you said that was the natural progression of that. And I do agree with that. Okay, let me ask you this. So who do you think is going to be the greater contributor this year, Castellanos or Schwarber?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Castellanos.
Okay.
I mean, I think having both of them is going to be great for this team. It's going to give Bryce protection.
Yeah.
And I've already seen discussion where, no hyperbole here, but I've seen discussion where there's a thought where Bryce could have a repeat MVP year because he's going to have so much protection.
Can't pitch around him.
You can't pitch around him.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, last year, the team was expected, I think, to be a lot better offensively last year. Bohm had come off where he batted .340 in 338 to you sticklers out there, back in 2020. And I think everybody expected that he was going to naturally progress and maybe not hit 340, but maybe hit like 290, 300 or something like that with maybe 20 home run power, 18 home run power. And that would have been great. And same thing with Gregorious. I think everybody assumed last year that he was going to continue with his great 2020 as well. As we know, both of those players regressed and regressed badly.
Well, I mean, there's been some news about Didi though, where what they thought was gout wasn't actually gout, so he was misdiagnosed.
What was it? I haven't heard that yet, actually.
Oh, now I got to look it up.
Okay.
But essentially, his doctor prescribed him medicine to fight gout. They believe that he had gout in his elbow.
Man. Well, the doctors thought that I had gout, which is the disease of kings, by the way, disease of kings. So if anybody out there has gout, don't feel bad. You have the disease of kings, but it is not a happy disease to have. It's very, very, very painful. But apparently, I guess he didn't have that though.
So they diagnosed it as inflammation, then pseudo gout, and then bone spurs that were surgically removed. But essentially, it was not any of those things. I'm quickly scanning the article on The Athletic right now because I did end up reading it. But he's of the thought that his abilities were compromised because of the misdiagnosis. So he's hoping that he has a bounce back year this year, defensively and at the plate.
Well, hopefully, because he's a big. It would be huge for him if he came through offensively like he did in 2020. Because remember, in 2020 he kind of bet on himself a little bit. He only signed, I think, a 1-year deal with us originally.
Yes.
And and he came through that year, so we signed him then to a 2-year deal. And last year wasn't quite as amazing, but hopefully he's all healed up. Now, of course, we've heard some rumblings also that Bryson Stott is potentially going to be challenging him for the shortstop position. Now, I haven't seen enough of Stott, honestly, to make a to I guess put a good analysis out. I don't know if you have or not, though.
I did not. I think I only went to two minor league / independent games last year, and the Reading Phils or the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs weren't involved in either. Now I know that the team is very high on Stott, and he had a great fall ball season.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing they're high on with him. And we might as well just segue into one of our other topics here. Could Bohm be traded?
It really depends on, for who. Now, let's say that if they were like, we're going to call up the Guardians and, we're going to say like, hey, we got this Alec Bohm guy. Remember in 2020 when he hit 338? How about you give us Jose Ramirez, one for one. The Guardians are like, yeah, this sounds great. Let's totally do that. Obviously something like that would never happen. But if for some reason, like maybe we were to package him into a deal for, let's say, Jose Ramirez, again, not going to happen, but, then sure. Or let's say that, maybe we traded him to Tampa Bay for like Kevin Kiermaier or something like that to shore up, center field. Like, great. Because obviously our defense is on the mind of a lot of pundits this year. A lot of people are like, well, they're going to hit dingers, but are they going to be able to field?
Well, speaking of that, I read a really great quote from Charlie Manuel, winningest coach in Phillies history, that when a team is winning, the defense rises with the team. The idea being that if a team is struggling, they're so focused on why they're struggling that their play on the field suffers. Whereas when the team is winning, they're not focused on those little things, and therefore their play on the field increases.
I just imagine the Phillies are up like 10-0 in a game against like the Braves in like mid-July. Acuna hits one to deep left. Everybody thinks it's out. And then you see like Kyle Schwarber jump like he's freaking Superman, to like 25 feet in the air to like grab it and bring it back in. And I think back to that quote from Jason that, the defense rises with the team when they're playing well.
Well, the quote wasn't from me, it was from Charlie. So
from Charlie. Sorry. But yeah, that was somehow that's immediately what came to my mind, seeing Kyle Schwarber jump like 50 feet in the air to like snag a home run ball or something like that. But going back to the Bohm question though, I don't know if I would give up on him so soon. Just because he did show a lot of promise with the bat in 2020. Everybody knows that it's called sophomore slump for a reason. So I think it's very possible that he could have a big bounce back year. I mean, we were obviously high on him for a couple of seasons. I mean, he was our number one offensive prospect, I think, from 2017 through 2020. And so to do a quick 180 where we're like, man, you are untouchable. We are not going to trade you at all, to being like, yeah, let's get this guy out of here. I don't know if Dombrowski is going to be that aggressive, but then again, it is Dombrowski. He doesn't come in and he's not the type of person where he's going to nurture young talent. He's the type of person who is going to ship young talent away for proven winners, which we've already seen.
But at the same time, though, we gave up a second-round draft pick for Castellanos.
Yeah,
we paid out of pocket for Schwarber.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, what did we really lose in any of the trades he made last season? We lost a pitcher who we thought would be something, who really didn't end up being anything when he went to Texas.
Shocker.
Really, I mean, our core farm system, as far as the guys they want to keep, they haven't gotten rid of.
It's true. You're very correct about that. You are correct. I mean, we still have Stott, Abel, Painter. Who's the young guy also that he's just starting to turn heads now. I think his name is either Josh or Johan Rojas. Is that it? I can't think of his name. He's a young player also who's starting to become is just starting to be looked on fondly also, and we do still have him as well.
Here's a question, since we're really getting away from things here, but what do we do with Moniak?
Man, I feel like he did hit a home run in spring training the other day, but I think of something actually all the way back from do you remember the movie Little Big what was it where he became the GM of the Minnesota Twins when he was like 12 years old?
I believe that's Little Big League. Not one of my favorites of that era of baseball.
Not mine either, but I remember that when he became a GM, he was like so attached to this one player, and I remember the player hit like a double and he was like, yes, this is the start of something. And they said something like, when you're GM, you can't be like attached to a player like that. You have to think about a GM. And I think with something like with Moniak, I feel like we've given him a lot of leeway, and it doesn't seem like he's coming along like I would have hoped for a 1-1 draft pick. So I don't know. I mean, they and with Herrera starting the season on the DL, because what I think they said he's going to be out for like 6 weeks or something like that. And I love Vierling, by the way. I 100%. I'm okay with giving Vierling the center field position. He's projected to be
the center fielder for the start of the season,
which I love. But that isn't that so telling though. Also, that we have Moniak, who was drafted first overall in 2016. And we don't really seem all that interested in using him. I mean, he's been up. He's so at least he's not going to be like one of those draft picks who's just completely flops and never even makes it to the major leagues. Thank God that's not going to be the case because he's already been up. But I don't see him really projecting to be anybody massive anymore, or maybe anything more than like a fourth or fifth outfielder. I think he's still young, so he could still have like an impact on the team, but I don't think it's going to be with the Phillies. And so who knows, maybe they trade Bohm and Moniak for, another big player. And it stinks because now obviously, I think it was the guy who went third in that draft, just pitched in the World Series last year. That was Ian Anderson, I think, for the Braves. And then the guy who went second, I know with the Reds, he's been up for a while. He hasn't been a huge contributor either. I don't think the 2016 was an amazing draft year for players or anything like that. So the Phillies swinging and missing on Moniak isn't horrible. It's not like Moniak went 1 and then Mike Trout went 2. Or something like that.
Right. Right. Actually, it's funny you mentioned Mike Trout.
Yeah.
If you go back and look at the 2010 top baseball prospects,
this is
number 1 was Dom Brown. Number 2 was Mike Trout.
Yeah, I remember. And Dominic Brown. I mean, and he's another one. I'm sure we've talked about this on the podcast before, where he wasn't just a guy; he was the guy. And his first at bat in the major leagues, he doubled off the right field wall, and everybody was like, "Yes, this is it." And I actually think that's one of the big reasons why Amaro was okay with trading Hunter Pence back in 2012.
Oh, that's a trade I regret.
Big time. I'm still really we won't get into Amaro here on this podcast because I know we have different thoughts about Amaro. But back to Moniak though. So, yeah. Sometimes I can be spacey and I'm like, what are we talking about now again?
Oh no, to me it just kind of covered your frustration with Dominic Brown being what he was. But now the reason I brought up Bohm being traded and segueing to this is because we were talking about Stott. And the belief is if Bohm gets traded, Didi's moving to third and Stott is going to become the everyday shortstop.
Has Didi ever played third before?
I want to say he might have at some point. But I am not 100% sure on that. And that's a question I was not prepared for you to ask, so I have no information. He's only played 2 major league games at shortstop. Or at second base. He's played 2 major league games at third base, and I believe he's played 11 at second.
So not not an amazing defensive lineup there for the Phillies, which, fine. If we're outscoring teams 10-8, that's, it is what it is.
But now, keep in mind, we did move Polanco to third for Utley to play second.
Yeah, but then we traded Polanco to the Tigers for Ugath Urbina, then didn't we? Because then we had David Bell at. You mean the second time we had Polanco?
The reason they traded Polanco the first time is because he didn't want to play third, if I remember correctly.
Okay, I see.
And then they brought him back to play third after they got rid of...
I see. Okay.
Oh, who was it? Pedro Feliz?
No, a very underrated player in Phillies history, by the way.
Does not get near enough love
no.
from that 08 team.
I mean, he literally got the World Series game-winning hit, and nobody remembers that. And he is the
least talked about player on that team.
He's so true. And I think to myself, I'm like, but why? You know. Oh, I do want to talk really quick about a player who could have a really big impact on the Phillies this year, who we haven't talked about yet. In his spring training debut, he looked electric, and that's Sir Anthony Dominguez. You know, now he was hitting like 97, 98 in his spring training debut. It's probably been about 2 years since he pitched because he had the Tommy John surgery, and but if he can pitch and pitch well, I mean, what a boon for the bullpen.
My concern is further injury. It's hard for me to get excited about Sir Anthony because of that, and I want to be, but I'm this team has me so beaten down.
Yes,
that it's hard to truly get excited. And I'm a little excited about this team this year. It's just so many things have to go right.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's and especially when you're in the same division with the Braves, obviously, who just won the World Series, and the Mets, who they pretty much just take out a lot of cash and just like hurl it into wherever they can find it. But
so it's the Mets. They're gonna end up doing something Metty at some point. So
and I feel like eventually that's gotta not be the case, right? Right? But I think we're running out of time quick here. So I wanted to ask you, what is your prediction for win-losses this season? Win-loss prediction, and if we make the playoffs.
I don't feel confident enough to make a win-loss prediction. I'm hoping they're over 500. I'm hoping for a winning record.
Mm-hmm.
With the expanded playoffs, I'm hoping they make the playoffs. It's not how I want the Phils to make the playoffs. I want them to make the playoffs winning the East.
Yeah.
But if they get in as one of these wild cards, I will accept it.
Yeah.
It's just something I got to deal with on my end with all the changes to the game.
Yeah. Ghost runner on second. Give me a break. Well, I'm going to be more optimistic than you. And I'm going to say that we're going to win 94 games this year. I think, I think, what would that be? 94 and 68, I think is what that would be then. So obviously that's a good team. Pull up
the calculator and do the math here.
Okay.
94 and 68.
That's right. Calculator right up here in the brain, not just a hat rack, my friend. But yeah, I do think that they're going to make the playoffs this year. I think the pitching staff is solid enough that they could get it done, and I think that whether or not I think this is going to be their 2007. They make the playoffs, they have a good team, and
I think that is a great analogy.
Yeah, and then they busted open big next year.
I think. And you're not the first person I've seen mention that. I think that's a great analogy. This would be their 07 team.
Yep.
Because the 07 team was not a great team defensively, but they had the big bats.
Really? I don't remember that. But I guess, I mean,
I believe I read adjusting for modern statistics.
Yeah.
They were not that great of a team defensively.
Huh. Well, it's funny, like, when I was younger, and even now, kind of, I think to myself, I'm like, defense, come on, the big bats are what win you the game. I'm sure they can catch a baseball, like that's all it needs to be. But It's not true, of course. Defense is really big. But, like I said, knock on wood that we'll have a lot of 12 to 11 games where we win, and the bullpen shuts it down this year. Bullpen, I think we'll have a bounce back year, but then again, you never know with our bullpen.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I guess we better wrap this up. You can find me every other week on the Non Another Sports podcast, where myself and my best friend David cover general sports talk geared towards all fans. And anyone listening, please look us up on Twitter, or not Twitter, on Facebook at facebook.com/Not Another Sports Podcast. We are currently running a giveaway. There are going to be 32 slots open to enter the giveaway to win a beard care package from our new sponsor. So please look us up on Facebook and enter. Yes, Tory, enter. I even shared it on my personal page. So
yeah.
And you can also find me, go ahead. You can.
No, please go ahead.
Okay. We're too polite.
Yeah.
You can find me weekly with Brad from the Baseball Together podcast on the Punk Popcast, where we talk about the bands, albums, and songs of the glory days of pop punk. This current episode, the week we're recording, we did soundtrack songs.
That's interesting. I'll give that one a try, actually. I haven't listened to you on that one yet. But you can also support the Philly Baseball Together podcast and the Baseball Together podcast network by picking up a shirt at baseballtogether.com/Philly-baseball-together-podcast. Podcast being one word. When you go there, listeners of Philly Baseball Together pod can also take 15% off of the Philly collection by using code PHIPOD, PHI-POD, at checkout.
With that, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Philly Baseball Together podcast. We are glad to be back with you fans, because we know you're glad to be back, and we're glad for Major League Baseball to be back. You can find the Philly Baseball Together podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Please remember to subscribe, rate, and review. With that, this episode is out of here.
Out of here.